All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Simon Says on the line, and the debate today, and the first of our pro wrestling debates, is whether or not The Undertaker should retire. We each get 2 minutes to give our take and our piece of the discussion, and then we'll go back and forth with a little bit of live interjection back and forth. So Simon Says, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's kick it off right about now. Go ahead and start your debate, your side of the argument, and go.
Let me start off by saying this was very painful to me to take the side of, yes, he should retire because he's one of my all-time favorites. I actually have an Undertaker tattoo on my leg that I got when I was 13 years old. But the proof is in the pudding there, Snowman. Number one, the obvious reason, his body's breaking down. Like, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He can't keep up the pace with other guys, and he needs cryo-freeze therapy, for goodness sake, just to make it through the next match. His quality of work is declining. You can tell. The most obvious example is his match against Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. That was a train wreck, and The Undertaker of old, not even in his prime, from a few years back, would have been able to control that a whole lot better. There's plenty of athletes who retired in their prime, like Bjorn Borg and Michael Jordan, Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, guys that knew when it was time and didn't tarnish their legacies. There's shows for pop culture like Seinfeld. Seinfeld went off the air at the height of its fandom, and people speak about it in reverence. You never hear people talk about Seinfeld jumping the shark. You never hear about Seinfeld losing its luster, And the other thing is, he doesn't need to. He's got all the money in the world. Him beating guys now, that means guys are losing to a 55-year-old man. Supernatural or not a lot of people buy the magic aspect. And if he loses, it's only tarnishing the legacy, his mystique and the lore. We went from having an unbeatable streak at WrestleMania that defined him to now having several people beat him. It's okay that the streak ended initially, but now, what are you doing for it? If he loses, it just undoes the wonder and this awesomeness that was the streak.
Okay. You got about 10 seconds. Any last words?
The cinematic wrestling style could add, some kind of, magic to his career, but how long is that going to last?
All right. All right, so that's your 2 minutes, and I will go ahead and take the next piece, and then we will interject back and forth, and if you have a second round, we'll go with that. Let me give you some names. Kane, Lou Thesz, Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, Sting, Goldberg, and Roddy Piper. Do you know what they have in common? All of them had high points in their career, championships or big runs, well into their 50s. The Undertaker is 55 years old, and in today's world, that isn't that old. There's testosterone, human growth hormone, Botox, hair injections, everything you could imagine. Sports therapy and new surgeries to keep people. He can have a new hip and be back on the road in 6 months. There's no reason that somebody in today's sports can't do the same thing that Lou Thesz did, can't do the same thing that Terry Funk and Ric Flair did, except do it better. Now let me give you some more names. Herschel Walker, Larry Holmes, Gordie Howe, and Satchel Paige. They were all other sport athletes that did amazing well into their 50s. Herschel Walker, an MMA superstar after his NFL career. Larry Holmes, 53 years old, tremendous boxer. Gordie Howe, he was a tremendous hockey player into his 60s. And Satchel Paige, 59. Now, on top of that, as a professional wrestler in his 50s, he's serving as a role model for older Americans who still want to root for somebody in their 50s. There's over 65 million Americans over 50 years old, and those people want to buy tickets and watch wrestling. I haven't even got into the fact that this is a sport that's predetermined. So if he has any injuries, anything that slows him down, they can work around it. Furthermore, they can pre-tape a match. So he has every ability to kick ass well into his 50s. With that being said, that's 2 minutes exactly. And Simon Says, I'll give you a moment for rebuttal. And then if you want a second round, we'll go for a second round.
Alrighty. My big rebuttal, Snowman, is this. You mentioned guys like Terry Funk and Ric Flair. I hate to say this because I have all the respect in the world for names like that, but, let's call a spade a spade. Guys like them ended up embarrassing themselves near the end of their career. barely able to get up, barely able to get down, guys essentially having to dance around them to put on the illusion of competition. You know, you also mentioned Lou Thesz. Lou Thesz's style and speed of wrestling was a completely different time. Guys weren't, taking the kind of punishment they're taking today. And do you really want a watered-down version of The Undertaker who can't, dive over the ropes, for that awe-inspiring moment, or walk the ropes in the old school? He's got a slowed-down schedule now, and he can barely make it through a match. The recovery time has greatly increased for him. For goodness sake, he was carted out of an arena almost 10 years ago against Triple H in Atlanta, Georgia. I was there for that, and I remember the pain in my fandom watching one of my heroes essentially be carted off like an old sack from a match.
Right. So you said that he had a bad match, 2 points. He said he had a bad match against Goldberg. I would say that everybody has had a bad match versus Goldberg. Dolph Ziggler had a bad match against Goldberg. So there's no chance that I'm going to write off The Undertaker because he wrestled Goldberg. Now, he can also wrestle in tag team matches, and I thought it was an entertaining match. And the thing is, it just has to be entertaining. Wrestling is a sport where you don't have to put on the greatest show. You've got Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan being one of the biggest matches of all time, and Andre couldn't even walk to the ring. They had to cart him out in a back brace, and he took one bump the entire match. 93,000 people thought it was the greatest match of all time. 93,173 people in the Pontiac Silverdome thought it was the greatest match they ever saw. You don't have to be a elite athlete in every match in the WWE. And I, as a fan, I would pay to see The Undertaker when he's 50, when he's 55, and when he's 60. And the bottom line is, as long as you can fill an arena and there's no doubt that people would pay to see him, there's no reason that he shouldn't wrestle. I'll give you one more point, and I'll turn it back over to you. Think about this for a second. He's not that old of a person. Nolan Ryan, 27 years, 27 seasons, he was an all-star baseball player. He was striking people out, and he was an inspiration. The Undertaker serves as an inspiration, and there's no doubt that his career should continue. And I guess a third thing, you said that Ric Flair and Terry Funk embarrassed themselves. I argue with that. There's no chance that they embarrassed themselves. The legacy of Ric Flair is not tarnished because he did a couple extra matches in his career. People still love him, and they think he's the greatest wrestler of all time.
I don't doubt that people will love The Undertaker for decades and decades and generations to come. But there's a difference. You mentioned the Goldberg thing. There's a difference between a bad match and a complete botch fest. I feel like The Undertaker of old would have been able to get a better hold on the situation. He can't control the action and be the ring general he was anymore. Also, to touch on Andre and Hogan, you can't get away with that slow pace anymore. You can't hold a headlock for 2 minutes and hold the wonder and the suspense of the crowd. His entrance is the best part of his act now. I think anyone would agree with that. The lights, the smoke, the feeling in the air. And you can still have that without tainting his mystique with a terrible performance. You can put him, just because he retires from in-ring competition, you can still put him with a group. You can have a new Ministry of Darkness, and he leads guys. Maybe once in a while have him come to the ring. All the fans want to see is a choke slam and a tombstone. And I think he can continue to deliver that kind of action with the shape that he's in now, way into his 60s, and still get the Undertaker feeling, that just euphoria that people feel when they hear the gong, without having it be subsequently followed by a performance where people roll their eyes and pinch their noses and shake their heads and say, man, he should not be in there anymore.
Yeah. So I will make one final point, a counterpoint to what you just said, and then we'll let you finish up. I'll give you the final word. Also, one of the big points of this discussion is so that fans can leave their comments below. Simon says he's a professional wrestler. He's given his points. I am not a professional wrestler. I've given my points, but I want to hear the fans and everybody chime in. Please, we appreciate it so much. You're the reason we do podcasting. We do these discussions. We do YouTube videos is because we love to hear from you guys. So please leave those comments below. Whatever your feeling is, we respect it, and we can't wait to hear it, and it's exciting to read them, and we'll try to reply to as many as possible. But my final counter was, again, we can't say The Undertaker had a bad match against Goldberg, so we should retire. And that match, just in the news this week, he was stating that, Goldberg hit him. He had a shock of electricity through his body. He probably had some sort of spinal injury in that match. He was probably concussed in that match. Anybody who's been injured by Bill Goldberg, you really can't blame them. When Bill Goldberg mule-kicked Bret Hart, you can't blame Bret Hart for having a bad match. One-off match can happen to anyone. They're overseas. They're in Saudi Arabia for Super Showdown. They both didn't get sleep. Goldberg's wrestled maybe 2 full matches in the last 10 years. Undertaker hasn't wrestled much. You can't blame him for that. If you put him against a professional athlete on his level or above, any day of the week, they could still sell out arena, and they could still have a great match, not to mention that you could tape it, edit it, give them a tag team match. You do a lot of things there. My vote is The Undertaker can still go, and he can still go for a few more years at the pace that he wants. I'll give you the final words, and then we'll wrap it up.
The shocks and the concussions just seem to be happening more and more often. It happened against Brock Lesnar in the match where he lost the streak, and his match with Triple H in Atlanta at WrestleMania, as I said, led him to be carted off. And I honestly can't think of anyone right now that Triple H has hurt like that. I want to bring up my favorite wrestler of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold retired without a big hurrah. Granted, he had a lot more injuries piled up that could have led to severe consequences, but he still continues to do non-wrestling appearances that completely thrill the crowd. Him just talking on the microphone. The Undertaker at the Raw Anniversary show where they broadcast from the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I believe the other one was the Barclays Center. I can't think of it right now, where he just came out and talked. That was one of the best segments of the night. Just hearing Undertaker interact with newer talents, I think that's what we can, hang our hats on and continue to see him.
All right. Well, I appreciate your insight, and I respect it. So we will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. Make sure to click like and subscribe. We have new videos pretty much every single day on this channel. We've got an archive of Jim Ross podcasts. We've got fans react to wrestling matches. And we've got wrestling debates, so stick around, subscribe, and click the notification bell for all your updates. Thanks again for watching, and adios, amigos.
And now, let's hear from Kali Muscle with a word about Thinnergy.
Hey, what's up with everybody in the world? This your boy Kali Muscle, and as you see, I represent muscle and fitness and cuts and striations. You see what I'm saying? And this is a shout out to the team at Thinnergy. You guys are doing a great work, man. Nobody cares more about fitness and nutrition than I do. So keep up the good work. It's all about incredible gains and great results. Stay motivated. Love y'all. Let me give you a little more inspiration and motivation. Look at them cuts. Love you. Stay blessed.
So if you want to boost your workout into high gear, try Thinnergy. It's an appetite suppressant and an energy booster. I take it as a pre-workout. Start today and get jacked like the genetic freak Big Kali Muscle. There's an Amazon link below.